What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with us. We got another wrinkle in the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar saga, which I believe is Drake versus everybody at this point, because not only have people pick sides, but we've also seen him take on a major record label, his major record label, and basically suing him for defamation, as this article courtesy of the New York Times is saying. It's saying Drake is suing his label, calling Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us defamatory. I'll go down and drop in, and they'll say, during a venomous back and forth barrage of diss tracks last year, the rappers Drake and Kendrick Lamar accused each other of phoniness, hypocrisy, and abuse. But while fans anointed Kendrick Lamar's chart-topping single Not Like Us, the battle's knockout blow, Drake saw the song's punchlines invoking pedo accusations, as well as something far more insidious with real-world consequences. In a lawsuit filed Wednesday, today, in federal court, the artist born as Arbery Drake Graham sued Universal Music Group, the record company behind both rappers, for defamation and harassment, calling its release and promotion of Not Like Us an example of valuing corporate greed over the safety and well-being of its artists. The suit, brought in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, accuses Universal of having approved, published, and launched a campaign to create a viral hit out of a rap track that was intended to convey the specific, unmistakable, and false factual allegation that Drake is a criminal pedo, and to suggest that the public should resort to vigilante justice in response. Goes on to say, noting that the cover art for Not Like Us feature a photo of Drake's Toronto home, dotted with markers meant to represent the presence of a registered offenders. We know what the word is. The complaint invokes a shooting at the residence days after, or it said it invoked a shooting at the residence days after the release that injured a security guard, calling it the 2024 equivalent of Pizzagate, and cites two other attempted trespasses in the days that followed. Obviously, we can see what the cover art is right here. It goes on to say the suit was brought on behalf of Drake by Michael Gottlieb, a partner at the firm Wilkie, Farr, and Gallagher, who has previously represented the owner of the Washington pizzeria targeted by Pizzagate conspiracy theorists and the election workers falsely accused by Rudolph Giuliani of aiding a false plot to steal the 2020 presidential election. Got the big dogs. In November, Drake had initiated pre-litigation actions against Universal in the state court in New York and Texas, naming Spotify and radio conglomerate iHeartMedia as potential participants in an elaborate scheme to promote Not Like Us using bots and payola. On Tuesday, representatives for Drake withdrew the earlier filing in New York against Universal and Spotify in favor of a federal lawsuit filed Wednesday. A hearing in the Texas matter, which includes iHeartMedia, was delayed until later this month. In a statement, at the time, a spokesperson for Universal said the suggestion that UMG would do anything to undermine any of its artists is offensive and untrue. We employ the highest ethical practices in our marketing and promotional campaigns. No amount of contrived or absurd legal arguments in this pre-action submission can mask the fact that fans chose the music they want to hear. So basically, Universal is saying that the people are the ones that determined what was popping, and it wasn't them. They had no doing whatsoever in the promotion, the aiding, the abetting, and the allegations that's being alleged inside of this lawsuit. Goes on to say the long simmering tension between Drake and Lamar, who had collaborated earlier in their careers, exploded into a full-on musical beef last spring across 8 rapidly released songs that including escalating personal attacks. We all know what the tracks are. We all heard them. We don't need to see it again. But the fact of the matter is this, and this is what we really need to pay attention to. The question at hand is this, and for us old enough to be outside at the time of the Biggie versus Tupac beef, which in my eyes is the biggest beef of all time. And again, I know that it's a lot of younger people that are commenting, that are paying attention. And when we were having this conversation, and we were saying, listen, and I said it 1,000 times, and I'm coming back to it because I was right. I said the fallout is going to be much bigger than a rap beef and lyrical warfare. Personally, I believe that the only person that won this was J. Cole, because he decided that he didn't want to participate and preserve his peace. Completely different conversation. But see, this is much bigger. When you start getting money involved, when you start talking about allegations and things like that, it's never going to go over well. And to make my earlier point, the biggest beef of all time was Pac versus Big. And the one thing that people complained about in hindsight was it wasn't an East Coast versus West Coast beef. It was a profit generator for the record labels. And that beef was absolutely, positively one of the best things that ever happened. And it drove profits through the roof. And ultimately, those artists, even though the artists themselves ultimately met their demise, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen with Drake versus Kendrick Lamar, the record labels profited in their life and in their death. And so what this is basically, in my eyes, is this is Drake initiating a lawsuit, not necessarily just because he probably didn't get the re-up that he thought that he was going to get per sources, but because I believe that Drake truly believes that he can do better independent and being released from the record labels versus continuing to put himself in a position to be at the record labels mercy and giving up a significant amount of profits, because I don't think that Drake believes personally, whether you think it's true or not, I think that Drake don't believe that that he needs a record label in order to run it up. I believe that Drake thinks that he's bigger than the labels. Now, we can debate that back and forth, and I know that a lot of people are so gullible that they believe that this is really a Not Like Us versus me, but I think that this is an opportunity for Drake to be able to get out of this whole record label, because it's the only logical reason as to why he would file this lawsuit. The only logical reason whatsoever. Listen, Drake is Drake. He's not like these other people. Kendrick Lamar is Kendrick Lamar. He's not like these other people. It really doesn't matter what happens in the beef itself. When it comes to the money, them running up a bag is absolutely guaranteed. They are practically the ones that are keeping the lights on over there at Universal, especially Drake. Now, when you think about it and you start to break it down and you say, okay, well, Drake is probably was supposed to re-up after this. Some will make the argument and say, well, you know, he never had to get in the battle in the first place. But ultimately, I believe that Drake wants out of UMG because he believes, A, that they're playing both sides of the fence, B, that they tried to diminish his value when it came time to re-up, and C, I believe that he believes that he's bigger regardless on his own, and he doesn't necessarily need Universal to run up a bag because he can make his own tours and he can run up his, do whatever it is, that his connection with the fans is bigger than the labels. And so it's no longer a partnership, it's a liability, and allowing for the labels to continue to profit off of any future works from him is one of the reasons why this lawsuit is going on. Now, you guys can make the argument of Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. I think that's cool. That's cute. Y'all can have that. But for me, I'm always paying attention to the money, and I'm always trying to figure out what the bigger play is. And I believe that he doesn't believe that he needs the record labels. I believe that it would set a new precedent and that record labels are completely obsolete. And if you have the biggest artist outside of Taylor Swift, as far as profits, records, units sold, streaming, if you have the biggest artist outside of Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift, she also took on the record labels, but if you have the biggest artist outside of Taylor Swift, if he can somehow get out of this contract and be 100% free to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, I think that it would shake the industry and it would 100% put the record labels on their heels. And no way in hell that they want to actually lose Drake at all. And I believe that they're throttling them right now in order to get him to drop these lawsuits. But we'll see. I'll pay attention to what's going on, and I'll keep you guys in the loop of what's going on out in these streets. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. I'm dropping a new video today inside of the Patreon, behind the scenes, breaking down what my new expansions are inside of the studio, giving you a behind the scenes look of every single thing that I do in the studio, including all of my cameras, my setup, how I spent 6 figures redoing my studio, and then what my expansion plans are for my new companies and also the new space that I just bought. All of that is dropping inside of the Patreon today. And then we got Stock Club coming up next week right after inauguration. I love you. I appreciate you. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Peace.